This week, my guest is an artist from Canada who grew up around records in his grandfather's record store. Dany has many accomplishments, full-length albums, EPs, and brand new singles he releases through the year, including Roads and Roses. In 2022, Dany was the inaugural guest for the first edition of Singer-Songwriter Appreciation.
Later, of course, was a thing in the 90s. You might remember the TV set, put it in one radio, listen to the radio in the other, wait for the song to come on, hit record, and that's how you make a mixtape.
Yeah, those were great times. Well, I'm glad to have him back for the 2024 edition, closing out Singer-Songwriter Appreciation. This is my interview with Dany Horovitz. Dany, thank you for coming back. It means a lot.
We'll do like one of these like clapper things, like and action.
Gotta love that eagerness. So since the last time you were on, you've been performing live shows. You've released single after single, and you released your second full-length album. Like all of this going on in 1 year is really impressive. Would you say that 2023 was a good year for you?
I would say last year was a good year for me, and I'd say that it was on a plan that I've had about slow releases and slow growth. So last year, you're right, I put out Finero Rhyme, and I did that one song at a time. Meanwhile, I've been recording other music, and so now this year, I'm also putting out more new songs that'll be on, let's say, a future album, but building it up. And I've been, like you said, playing even more shows. So I mostly play around Toronto. And I'm very lucky to have gotten into the North by Northeast Festival, which is happening in Toronto in June. So last year was a really good year for me. I was really pleased with the feedback I got on the songs. I was really pleased with the quality of the music that I put out. My team is just outstanding. And this year we're bringing back a lot of the same people for music, and I'm just excited for what's coming next, and really happy with how that last year went. Long answer.
Wonderful. As you know, Spotify does a thing called Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year, and you know, it's a great way for artists to see their reception. You know, their listeners, how many people were listening, and you know, you my friend had a really good year for Spotify Wrapped. Yep, there it is. So I'm sure it's as nice for the artist as it is for the listener. How does it feel that you have listeners from all over the world?
It feels really good, and it's also surprising. You know, in my own real regular life, I'm a very indie local guy. Like I'll play to bars and shows, and there might be 40 people in there. There could be 4 people in there, right? It's just, it feels very small. But the power of stream is that you can reach all these places in the world. And so I'm getting, streams from like Germany, and I'm getting streams from small towns in the States, from Melbourne, Australia. And that's so incredible. It feels great. And I'll say that it also opens up opportunities for other indie artists who feel the same way that I do. They all have their playlists, I have my playlist, and we get to share each other's music. And so now if people are listening to my music locally, they're getting exposure to, those artists that I like that are from Germany or Melbourne, Australia. And maybe that's how I'm getting exposure to them. So I'm really, really happy to hear that my music is being heard by people all across the world. And I just love that connection. You hope when you put music out there that you can get it to people. And I'm, in my own small way, I'm pleased with everything.
So you grew up around records in your grandfather's store. I would like to know your thoughts, your opinions on the quality of music on tape, CD, vinyl. As you know, vinyl made a comeback. Like, based on what the music is played on, do you think it changes how we hear it?
I don't know if that's true anymore. I think it did. I know it did at one point. There was a very famous example of a song called Tom's Diner by Susanna Vega, and they showed the MP3, and they showed, or you could find the MP3 on YouTube, and then you can find the parts of the MP3 that were dropped out from the vinyl or from the CD, and it was like a lot. So when MP3s first came out, the quality was lower. Um, Today, though, I think the quality of WAV files is just as high as any quality you'd get from the CDs. When it comes to vinyl, people talk about how they love the snaps and the pops, but that reveals something else to me, which is that I think when it comes to vinyl, people have always loved the ceremony. It's like when you have a fire and you like stoking the fire and seeing the embers. That doesn't change the quality of the warmth that comes from a real fire that you might have from propane, but there's something about the experience of sitting around, a campfire. There's something about the experience of putting on the vinyl and knowing that those snaps and pops are coming from the love that you've shown to it. So, uh, as far as quality goes, I think that all the quality now digitally is as good as it can possibly be. But what we feel when we play vinyl is something special, and that's why I suspect it's made a comeback.
You know what I like about records is you put them on and the needle goes down and then the song starts playing. It's just really crisp. I mean, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, you know what's interesting to me? So the vinyl piece is interesting, and I find it beautiful the way that I the way that I think about that. CDs less so. I grew up with mostly CDs, right? I'm sure you did too. But CDs, there's not really much of a ceremony about it. You just kind of plop it in, you hit play, and then you can kind of like click next, next, next. There's not really a meaningful difference between, in my opinion, a CD and playing it on your phone through a streaming service. So to see CDs making a comeback to me is a little more puzzling than vinyl. But everybody has their preference and everyone has their reasons, and I'm sure someone else could articulate why CDs are making a comeback.
This kind of insight is exactly why I love doing this.
Well, yeah, and it's great that you love music and you love singer-songwriters and you put a spotlight on us. You're a fan and it shows. You're interested and it shows, and so it's great. Thanks for making this a part of your year.
Thanks. I appreciate all of you for agreeing to be a part of the show, and you know, just thank you. Let's talk about the Beatles for a second. Last time you were here, we talked about like their process and coming up with their songs. Last year, they released a new song called Now and Then, which they tried to release for decades, but they finally the technology's good that they finally were able to do it last year. Do you think there's a specific time to release a song to the public?
I don't think there's a specific time or a wrong time to make it. If you feel moved by something and you want to write a song, or you have something old that you re-listen to, there's always a good time to bring it. I wrote a song a while ago called "Way About You," and I didn't think much of it. I'm always writing songs, and I put it in the back burner. And I happened to be at the studio. My producer invited me to like play some songs while audio engineering students were in there so they could learn how to do audio engineering. So just like whatever songs I haven't recorded, and that was one of them. And he heard it. He's like, "That's great. You should put that on the next album." And now we're recording it. So with Now and Then, it's one of those songs from the 70s. It's a nice song, but the audio file was corrupted, so they couldn't really make it the way they wanted to make it back in the 90s when they did Free as a Bird and Real Love. And so now the technology's better. Is there a bad time to do it? I don't think that there is a bad time to do it. And there's never, you just always make, always create, always put out, always go with your heart musically because you love to do it. I was just listening to I don't know if you're listening to the Paul McCartney The Lyrics podcast. I have the book Paul McCartney The Lyrics, fantastic. And there's a podcast that goes with it. And every week they're putting out like another song and you're just listening to them talk about it. One of the songs is called Picasso's Last Words, Drink to Me. And he wrote this song. Paul McCartney wrote this song because he was on vacation at a hotel lobby with Dustin Hoffman, and Dustin Hoffman was mystified by the songwriting experience and said to him, "Can you write a song about anything?" And he pulled out some newspaper and said, "Can you write a song about this obituary about Pablo Picasso?" And Paul McCartney and Dustin Hoffman kind of read it, and like in the moment, Paul McCartney just wrote a song. That's not a bad time to write a song either, even in a hotel lobby. There's never a bad time to write it. There's never a bad time to revisit it. And it continues to spur good things as long as you're listening to music and doing it for the right reasons, which is to say doing it because you love it and not because you feel obliged to. going on the Beatles, I just finished reading the George Harrison biography by Philip Norman, who did also the John Lennon, Paul McCartney biography. I hope he does a Ringo one too. And so while my guitar gently weeps, George Harrison, who was very into Eastern philosophy, he was reading some book and he came across the expression "gently weeps," and he worked it into a song. And he was just at that time coming into his own because his songs up to I think around before the White Album, you wouldn't say that they were extraordinary. And then that song is the first truly extraordinary song that I think we all agree he composed. And it's true that without that phrase, guitar like gently weeps, that song, that's what makes that song. And who knows why he came across that phrase and said that's the thing I'm gonna do, but he did it, and it sort of like catapulted the rest of his songwriting. Because then after that, then he goes on to write Something and Here Comes the Sun and all these incredible tunes. So if who knows who knows how that process works, but also they're not disconnected. The fact that you're leaving yourself open to being inspired by anything, and the fact that you're pushing ahead with the songwriting continues to help you evolve. And then once you start getting into the habit of writing songs that you like, you're going to keep doing that.
Fantastic. Let's talk about your song "Roads and Roses" for a moment. It's a great song, fantastic sound. But with a lot of your songs, you put your own twist on. You make different genres your own, and it's fantastic. So, so for your process, what usually comes first, the music or the lyrics?
I usually do them together. I'm like noodling around on my guitar, playing chords, uh, and I strike a chord, and you feel something. Oh, what is that feeling? Let me put some words to it, and then you just kind of keep going with it. And so I usually write them together. And I have this rule where if I can remember the song the next day, then I know it's a good song. I don't have to have the song finished, but if I do, great. But it's usually mostly in a shape where there's like a structure to it, and if I can remember it the next day, then I know it's good, and I'm either happy with it or I keep working at it. Sometimes I do have the lyrics first because I'm always writing words down in poems, and sometimes I'll have a melody that I'll feel something. I'm like, maybe would this be right for these words I wrote earlier? Um, but mostly I'd say I do it spontaneously together.
That's
Roads and Roads. So Sorry from the Road is a good example of one where like I had it in my mind on a walk one day to write my version of a Roy Orbison song, and I was kind of like thinking about it together, and I kind of like sang it a little to myself. And then when I got home on my guitar and I wrote it, Roads and Roses is actually different. It came out of a songwriting challenge I gave to myself, and I was like, I feel like there's an opportunity to like make these two completely desperate ideas connect, like this idea of a garden bed where you plant something and you grow, and this idea of a road, which is like an escape getaway. Is there a way that I could take these metaphors and stick it together? That song, I didn't write it as quickly as I wrote my other songs. It was actually a longer process because I was so dedicated to that songwriting one. But Don't Look to Me is a great example of one where I was just on my guitar and it just kind of came out.
Yes. Sorry from the Road. I like that it sounds like a Bruce Springsteen song.
It's funny how it gets written as a Roy Orbison song, and then we get into the studio, and you're totally right. We were like, let's make this a Springsteen song. We added saxophone, and we've got that glockenspiel. Yeah, that was the vibe we're going for.
All right, and your music and lyrics feature a wide variety of synonyms and poetic phrases. What advice would you give a lyricist that's just starting out or struggling to find their footing in the industry?
It's a good question. I would say two things. One, read a lot. The more you read, the more you're exposed to words, the more you're exposed to the way that other people think about things, and that will help you come up with your own take on that, because everything that you'll create doesn't happen in a vacuum. You're always filtering the things that you're influenced by. So read. That's the number one thing you can do if you want to write lyrics is read. And the second thing goes without saying, write. It is very intimidating to have a blank page in front of you, but just start writing. It doesn't have to be finished. It doesn't have to be final. You can scrap it all, but start putting things down. Those are the two best advices that I would give to lyricists, and it goes well with the other advice I just give generally to anybody who wants to like be a songwriter, is like write songs that you love to sing. Write songs that you find simple to play in your way, that you find simple to sing in your way. Like love the songs that you write. But I do think if you read a lot and if you keep writing, you're going to gravitate towards the things that you like anyway. In our world of like super independent musicians where it's really hard to make a living doing just the music, it's a fool's errand to try to write songs for other people. So if you know, I don't know too many people who do that anymore, although I'm sure at the commercial level they do. But read a lot, write, and you know, and make songs that you want to sing and play.
All right, Dany, you're incredible. Again, thank you for coming back. Now the floor is yours. Where can the audience find you, and what do you have coming up?
Well, Rob, thanks for having me. They can find me on social media everywhere. I'm usually Dany Horovitz, DanyHorovitz. So that's Dany with one N, Horovitz with a V. Um, Usually Instagram's probably the best place for me, but anywhere if you want to follow me on social media. More importantly than social media, find me wherever you get your music: Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, Amazon Music, YouTube, everywhere. I'm Dany Horovitz. If you don't have a subscription service, you can always find me on YouTube, which is just free and on the internet. I always have music on the go. My strategy is just to release a song every 2 months or so. So Roads and Roses, the song we were talking about, that's the sort of the latest song that I have, but it's also one of a number of songs that are coming out over this year and next. And so sometime in 2025, when that collection of recorded songs have been like fully released one at a time, the last song will then have all 10 of them. It's like kind of a kind of like, now this is the collection. This is the final collection of works. But there's always a song coming out. So if you're hearing this podcast, whenever it is, go listen to Roads and Roses or Sorry from the Road or Don't Look to Me. And if you like them, go listen to the rest of my stuff. See what the latest song that I have coming out is. Roads and Roses features Cola Humphreys on drums and Sean Royal on bass and guitar. And those are two guys that I work with quite a bit. It also features a violinist named Izzy Ritchie from a great Canadian band called the Strumbellas. The next song that I have coming out is called Simply Because, and we brought on a trumpeter, this phenomenal trumpeter named Rudy Ray Kwaku. He's he just blows me away how good he is, and I haven't used trumpet on songs before, so I'm excited to have that come out, and just more songs with more fiddle, more brass, just to have people wherever they are in the journey. You can go back and listen to when I was, more simply produced, when it's more full now. I know it's a long way of answering your question, but no matter where it is when you release this, there's a song that has just recently come out and another song that's going to come out pretty soon. So follow me on Spotify or put that star in Apple Music. Just go and listen. Let me know what you think, because I live for this stuff, you know.
All right. Thank you so much, Dany. Dany has a new song out that will play us out. It's called Soul of a Poet. So check that out. Stream it wherever you prefer your streaming. Dany, thank you so much for being a part of this. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you for having me.
Pour me another red, she says. This'll be the last one for tonight.